sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name is Virginia Jones. I'm a stand-up comic, but my sister, Laura Ryan, is a therapist.
Hello, I'm Laura Ryan. My main credit is being sister to funny woman Virginia Jones, but I'm also a licensed marriage and family therapist.
When people come into your office, do you open with that?
Yes, I say, have you heard of comedian Virginia Jones?
Comedian is offensive. It makes a woman comic be a whole different job.
Well, why don't we just call everyone comedian?
Diminutive.
I think that sounds nicer anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Diminutive.
Famous comedian, Louis C.K.
Yeah. Well, let's not. But doesn't comedian sound nicer? It sounds French.
It does sound French. But words like that, stewardess, comedian,
female doctor,
actress, even.
Yeah.
It's lesser than the main thing. It's almost as good as
we have to specify what it is.
Because if you don't say whether the person in the profession is a woman, how can other people tell if they're good or not?
Have you heard of comedian Zach Galifianakis?
I've been honored to do one show with comedian Zach Galifianakis.
I have done 0 shows with comedian Zach Galifianakis, but I hope to one day. I don't know what the show will be, but I want to be there.
This week, we're very excited. We're about to click over to 10,000 downloads, and it's all thanks to you people.
The listeners, thank you so much for all of your support. We love you. Keep coming back.
To the 2 people who are here because of the quote in Huffington Post, welcome.
Yes, Virginia Jones, not comedian, is a BFD. She's a published author. I think I was in HuffPo also. The 2 of us have.
So that's a credit we both have.
Well, there you go.
We love saying things that are published online for no money.
That's one of my favorite things to do, actually. You know what my favorite thing to do is? It's to edit podcasts for no money. It's to work on the cover art for no money. It's to make 8,000 TikToks about the podcast for no money. It's getting fun.
Laura has gotten low-key obsessed with the cover art for the podcast.
There's no low-key about it.
She's always been an artist. She did visual art in high school and college, but I think this has just been reawakened in her through Canva.
I think Canva has brought me back to my roots. I found an essay that I wrote in 6th grade. I was talking about how I was going to be a famous artist. It wasn't specific. I think I said painting. That was my plan in 6th grade. So now I'm sort of doing it. So Virginia, what's our topic for today?
This week, I thought we would talk about ageism.
That's an interesting topic that has never affected me.
In recent times, President Joe Biden has pulled himself out of the 2024 candidacy, and Kamala Harris has stepped up. A big part of that removal has been age. It's kind of interesting because it is a rare incident where age has negatively impacted a man. I think it's interesting to talk about the many, many ways ageism impacts men and women. So I just relocated from Los Angeles, California.
Never heard of it.
And frankly, I was too old when I got there. I knew that.
Is there like a sign at the bus station?
They're like, hey, if you remember...
If you're over 40, just leave, please.
Do you know what a Tamagotchi is? Get out.
If you've ever seen a Tamagotchi or interacted with one...
Are you old enough to remember the first time that Jenko jeans were popular? Get out.
Absolutely.
Our brother reminded us of an old story about ageism in Hollywood, but kind of a remarkable one. Riley Weston was a actor on Felicity. The character was 18 years old. She said she was 18 years old when in fact she was 32. A friend snitched on her, apparently jealous that she had gotten a role on television passing for a teenager, but everybody believed it. In fact, the crew of Felicity threw her a 19th birthday party on set.
Was it even her birthday at all?
Who knows? But she said, I didn't feel good about it, but it came down to working as an actor. Show me an actor who's never lied about age.
Fair.
In very rare cases, actors lie about their age the other way. Like Mila Kunis famously was cast on that 70s show when she was 14, but when she was auditioning, she said she was 18. And of course, Tracy Lords in her line of work lied about her age in a very gross and illegal way.
Oh, wonderful.
There are legal repercussions relating to age in Hollywood. An unnamed Texas actress who was pushing 40, but looked and represented herself as much younger, posted a certain age on IMDb Pro. But IMDb cross-referenced public records with her credit card information to determine her real age.
Is that legal?
Her argument is it's no. Why is it important what my chronological age is if I can successfully look 20, play 20? I'm not saying me personally because Christ, but there's a chronic ageism in Hollywood, in all parts of Hollywood, even affecting writers and directors. A journalist at US Magazine said, while the public perception might be that the lawsuit was about vanity, he says it's about money. For someone who is a struggling actress, being known as 39 when you can be perceived as 34 is crucial to their bottom line. The closer you get to 40, the further you are away from being an ingenue. There's a quote from Goldie Hawn where she said, there's 3 roles in Hollywood for women: ingenue, district attorney, and driving Miss Daisy. In my experience, fun-loving mom and older sex worker. So many times an audition came up for older sex worker. So many times that I got tired of auditioning. The most exciting audition for aging sex worker was going to be in a movie with Chris Pine, which I didn't book it. I didn't get to meet Chris Pine. We didn't fall in love. And so everything has tumbled downhill from there. In recent news, we've talked about her before. Bridgerton superstar Nicola Coughlan was told to lie in order to get better roles. She's 37.
Which is wild. When I found that out, I could not believe it. I really thought she was 20.
She was told to lie about her age earlier in her career in order to get better opportunities. And she said, I really wasn't comfortable with it because I'm not a good liar. But the constant conversation about women's ages prompted her to think about whether she should have ever spoken so candidly about how old she is. She says, I think it's a difficult thing because the industry is ageist. But I think ultimately, if you don't disclose your age, then you're playing a part in the system of oppression of women, which is true, but not everyone is willing to throw themselves on that sword.
Because it costs you money.
Rebel Wilson lied about her age by 8 years, said she was 28 instead of 36 because she wanted to be considered for Pitch Perfect, which was her life-changing role. Rebel Wilson sued when a journalist revealed her true age and that her name was not really Rebel because her parents were not abusive. And she was awarded $4.5 million, $2.5 million Australian. It's said in many different ways, but women have a shelf life on screen. Hollywood's message is clear from entertainment writer Stephen Whitty. Women get old, men just get older. I think we accept that actresses are forced to stay in a certain range. The very funny Julia Louis-Dreyfus starred in a sketch for the Amy Schumer show about your last effable day, that there's one day that each actress faces beyond which you're just considered not a sex object. In the sketch, the women were excited about it, excited to be free of this burden, but it also means you don't get booked. It's a conversation I have a lot with friends because women come under criticism a lot for facial surgery, for doing things to their bodies, doing things to their faces to appear younger. Well, why does she have to do that? Why can't she just age gracefully? Well, she's making the decision to continue to work.
She wants to be accepted in society.
You can age gracefully all you want, but unless you're Meryl effing Streep,
who I think has also had some work done.
Yes. Every other woman has to go find a real job.
It's a lose-lose. There's no way to win here.
It's a lose-lose, but one of the losses is involved with still working. Carrie Fisher, bless her soul, once said, people get angry with you for aging and for me not looking like I did when I was in a Slave Leia costume because you're fixed in their mind and then you're not allowed to change, but we all change. I think we accept that actresses are treated like crap in this way. And frequently when you talk to someone and they say, oh, you know what actress I liked? Whatever happened to them? What happened to them is that they turned 40. Musicians, of course, deal with a lot of ageism. Cyndi Lauper, famously, when asked about her age, she was 30. When she was talking about girls wanting to have fun. She was still a girl and she still wanted to have fun. And she pushed back and said, when I'm a car, what does it matter how old I am? This is how I look. This is how I sound. This is my business. But writers and directors, Hollywood ageism is so profound that they're affected by it too. The probability of hiring drops by about half as a director ages from 40 to 55, which is weird because I think of directors as being more experienced, having been on sets, but then that starts to be outpaced by your chronological age. And in 2020, a Writers Guild of America report found that just 1% of TV writers were over 55. Laverne Cox lied about her age for 10 years because when she was 28, she was dating a 21-year-old. And he said, well, you're too old for me. And so she said, fine, I'm 22. And she just kept that going for a decade. You and I have talked about it. There's very real reasons to lie about your age on dating apps.
Absolutely.
I am older than my sister and I'm very, very old. She is only slightly old.
You're not that much older than me.
I am Methuselah I am the man of the mountain. When I was in my 30s, I was on OkCupid, and I found that after 35, I had to start fudging my age. And yes, I was on OkCupid because I'm very, very old. I remember telling you, once you turn 35, you have to dial your age down because you just won't appear to anyone ever.
And I got divorced at 34, I think. I was cleaning up.
Yeah, you had one year of happy hunting grounds.
It wasn't even a year. It was like a few months.
And then you crossed over this magic threshold. The thing is that even men in their 50s won't consider dating a woman who's 40 or close to 40.
No, I have a client right now who is my age, and he's only dating women in their early 30s.
My favorite thing is that men in their 50s will justify dating women much younger because they say,
I want to have children.
dude, what have you been doing your whole life up until now? If you've always wanted to have children, or you just wanted to have children when you turned 50, you should have done it when you were younger as well.
Yeah, was your goal to be a grandpa having kids? Is your goal to be in a wheelchair at your child's wedding?
Okay, so here's some fun lawsuits about age discrimination. A federal jury awarded 65-year-old Alabama CVS pharmacy supervisor Cody Bergeson more than $2.1 million because the company willfully violated the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. That's got to be retirement money from a CVS. So thumbs up. A Rhode Island couple who were 74 and 69 were denied the opportunity to foster a dog because they were too old to have a dog.
What? If I'm 85 and I'm rolling up on a puppy,
Sure.
that doesn't
You're
seem
not
right.
gonna survive that puppy. Between the two of them, they had 30 years of experience as dog owners. And they were like, nope, too old to foster. Not even adopt, foster. Virginia school board candidate Audrey Clement filed a Washington Post questionnaire saying she was 52, but the Post determined that she was actually 72. And she said, I believe that the Washington Post doesn't have any right to require that information of me or of any other political candidate. I believe that it is a violation of my civil rights and a manifestation of ageism. But people do lie about their age at work. 3 in 5 older workers report either seeing or experiencing age-based discrimination. I was shocked when I went to Google St. Pancras with my sister because everybody there was 20. And these are movers and shakers. These are brainy, hardworking tech kids. But I'm like, how can any of them know anything at all? But the world in which they live, I guess, it's more important that you be young than be experienced. It was really strange. Has age affected you in your profession?
It affected me when I was young because I started out in the hypnosis game in my 20s, and people were really judgmental of me and did not think I was qualified to help them and always asked me what my age was. When I turned 40, the question stopped.
That slowed right down. Again, damned if you do, damned if you don't. As a woman, when you're younger, you're not professional enough. You don't have enough experience. But then when you're 40, how big is that window? You're an ideal employee for 10 years.
Not even. I would say 35 to 40 in my experience. That is one of the gifts of my career. People want to see an older woman because they want someone who has wisdom. I think it peaks at around maybe 65. I'm sure if I'm still doing this game in my 70s, people won't be that into it. But I think a lot of people, they're looking for guidance. They're looking for wisdom, and they can't get that from a 20-year-old.
You need an old crone. You need a sea witch.
And I'm definitely that.
In my day job, I've received the advice to take any age indicators off of my resume. Don't say you graduated college in 1990. Say that you graduated college because you can't actually ask about it in an interview. If your first professional gig was working for Vanilla Ice, maybe just don't mention that. Say a rapper. I actually had a design director who was a woman tell me, you have to get Botox after a certain age. Because as a woman, if you have a wrinkled forehead, you look angry and you have resting bee face, people will perceive you as being unfriendly. She considered it a business expense to have her face smooth and glassy like a porcelain doll.
She's probably right.
Yeah, she's probably right. When your work is politics, age is obviously a huge thing. Hillary Clinton, who in my opinion was the most qualified person who has ever run for president, her age was a big topic. And Rush Limbaugh said, do the American people want to observe the aging of this woman in office?
Isn't he dead?
He's so old that he's dead. Before he was dead, he took so many painkillers he went deaf.
Well, that's someone whose opinion I'm really going to trust.
What was annoying, aggravating, is that Hillary Clinton was 69. younger than most recent candidates, definitely for the Republican Party, but because she was a woman, it was a big issue. Ronald Reagan was the first really old candidate at 73 when he ran for re-election in 1984. Bob Dole was 73 when he was running in 1996. John McCain was 71 when he ran in 2008. And in 2016, Hillary was turning 69.
Joseph Biden is 81 and Donald Trump is 78.
That's a fun fact that now that Biden is out of the running and they made his age such a big deal, Trump is now the oldest candidate that has ever run for office.
Well, that's the thing. When there's a 3-year age gap, you can't say that this person is an old dummy if you yourself are 3 years younger. My sister, Virginia, used to act like she and I are just wildly different in age. And I remember she said, well, when you're older, and I said, you mean in 2 years? What are you talking about?
And in 2.5 years, you did understand.
No, I remember thinking, what is that idiot talking about? Why does this woman pretend she's 10 to 15 years older than me?
As we talked about in an earlier episode about birth order, because I am the oldest girl and the oldest child, and because we are Irish triplets, so we were born very, very close in age, but you're not even the next child. You're 2 after me.
Robbie and I are barely a year apart.
And that's sad.
Yeah. So it really doesn't count. You're saying because my mom had a bunch of kids, you are infinitely more wise than me? No.
I think you're forgetting the part of our episode, The Order of Things, where we learned that the eldest child is the smartest. And if you want to be the smartest child, you have to kill the eldest child.
I don't remember learning that.
Interesting. Listeners, find the facts. I think that Trump, like our grandmother, many mentally ill people, believes that he reads a lot younger than 78. We know that he is a lithe and fit 200 pounds, extremely muscular. His doctor released his
stats.
His stats, 200, 6'3" or whatever. He's basically a tower of lean muscle.
Except when he takes his blazer off.
Or when he's wearing, for some reason, a white polo shirt. That's the fashion decision he's made.
Yeah, tucked in white polo. That's not the move, bud.
It reminds me of a certain someone who we mention every episode. That look.
Well, you need to throw a braided belt in and then you'll have it down.
Tucked in polo shirt, braided leather belt.
Washed out jeans that are like giving Seinfeld vibes.
Sneakers, of course. And towards the end, a long, greasy ponytail.
And listener, just to let you know, this is the time that you take a shot in the did they mention their father in the podcast game?
I think that part of Trump's narcissism and self-image is that he believes that he looks 50.
Yes, I think our grandmother also thought she could pass. I remember a story where she was with our mother and she thought she might be mistaken for her sister.
Yes, that is something a lot of narc women think. My mom did remark when she turned 50, she told her mother, now we're the same age because Grandma Ginny never admitted to being over 50.
And she was my motivation for never lying about my age because I still have never lied about my age. I removed it from my dating profile, but I never said I was a different age than I was.
The same experience happens over and over that women sit down to dates and say, okay, I lied about my age. I said I was 32. I am 35. But it is because all of you guys have your filter to 35 or 36.
I remember I was dating a guy for a while. I had been dating him for a few months, I think, at this point. And I still had never told him what my age was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like to lie. I was telling him, hey, I'm having a special birthday after our greatest president. I had a 45 birthday cake, which was Donald Trump's face. It was so beautiful. My best friend / wife made a cake that had like a tray of Cheetos all around it and then the cupcakes to go with his face. But I said, I'm having a 45 birthday because I'm turning 45. And this man's face just sort of dropped.
His eyes got wide as saucers.
Literally, his mouth was hanging open and he said nothing. And he said, oh, wow, I had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea. I think he was going to say that you were that old, but then he stopped.
Wow, I had no idea. ...
And I said, well, obviously, somehow I met your criteria because
Well, I'm here.
matched with me.
You're here and I'm here.
And he said, well, yeah, I mean, I put it pretty high, but I
didn't think you were going to be that old.
I didn't think anyone was actually that old.
And that's the thing. We, again and again, are given this message as women. When you turn 40, just dig yourself a shallow grave, lie down in it, and wait for death.
That's what I've been doing since I turned 40.
You're too old to act. You're too old to work. You're too old to be a musician. You're too old to date. Just clench your hands a couple times and wait for the Lord to carry you home.
You're too old to wear fashionable clothing also.
Yes, I love that crap. How to dress when you're over 40. Best looks for someone over 50. Yeah, you should wear whatever the crap you want.
I think we spoke about this in another episode.
Yeah.
There is no equivalent for men. There's no how to dress as a man over 40. It's tucked and pulled out shirts and braided belts and Seinfeld jeans.
Yeah, that's the real way to do it. I do think that men after a certain age, you're no longer encouraged to wear an athletic cut shirt. And the downside is that men only have 2 looks they can wear their entire lives.
I was going to say they only have 2 shirts.
They only have 2 shirts. You wear a suit or you can wear a polo shirt and slacks.
If you're young at heart, you can wear a band t-shirt.
That was the hard thing about Los Angeles is that we're so obsessed with youth culture. Every man dressed like he might just drop into a half pipe. Way, way too late for that to look good.
Seeing a man in his 60s in a ringer tee, it's really
is something. Really is something. I've always dressed the same way, starting from when I was 15, which is a goth. And then when I turned 40, I started being a goth who sometimes wore obnoxiously bright clothing. So it's goth and Mrs. Roper. Those are my 2 speeds that I'm operating at.
That's very interesting. As you know, I've always dressed as a sailor.
Yes.
I can take sailor into my 90s.
Sailor, 70s cop, tomboy. Those are Laura's general looks.
Describe 70s cop. What makes that?
You've tried to conflict with me about this before. It's the stripy shirts and the brown boots. This was mostly you in the 90s and indie rock times.
Why would a cop wear a stripy shirt? Wouldn't he wear his uniform?
It's a film cop who's undercover because he's going to bust the drug ring.
Okay,
Don't be stupid.
That's extra layers that you didn't share.
70s film cop.
Because I was like, are you saying that I'm wearing like brown
that leather
uniform?
No, that leather jacket with the epaulets and the big collar. That
was my boyfriend's jacket, and I didn't wear it. You just have a really bad memory because you're old.
As a comic, people always assume that I'm younger because I'm hanging out with younger people and wasting my life alongside them. I do try to be mostly honest about my age.
The thing that I've figured out in this life is that unless you look extremely old or extremely young, most of the time people just assume you're close to their age.
Our nature as people is you're about my age, you're about my background, you're probably the same religion as me.
Most of my clients are close to my age, but there's a few outliers on either end. And I've had 2 pretty young women be absolutely shocked to find that I am 15 to 20 years older than they are.
What do you think that 50 looks like? And they think it looks like Grandma Moses.
I'm not 50 yet.
You're right, because you're so much younger.
I'm so much younger. One day I'll know what it's like to be 50 in a year and some change.
So in the big picture, Laura, why do we feel justified judging other people for their age before they're in their 60s and 70s? I will admit, people in their mid to late 70s, you slow down. Unless you are one of the very lucky ones, you're going to have limitations. I think 40 is just more 30 and 50 so far is just more 40. What does it matter?
I'm noticing a lot more spontaneous back pain than I've ever experienced before. That's really the main thrust of being on the tail end of 40. I think I was very inexperienced in life in my 30s. I really didn't know anything. And I feel a lot more wise now.
Yes, I'm just talking chronologically. People act like the evening of your 39th year, the sun goes down, the sun comes up, you come out the other end, a decrepit crone with no bowel control.
To be fair, it does feel a little bit like that. I'm going to tell you this for nothing. Okay. I had my first GERD episode.
No, I'm not going to talk about this. Oh my God.
It was the night of my 40th birthday. I woke up and I was like, what is this thing?
I did have an experience this year where I turned 51 and then I started having flashes of light on the periphery of my eyes. And when I Googled it, Google said, your cornea is detaching, go to the hospital. So I made an appointment with an ophthalmologist and she looked at my eyes and she said, well, this is just part of getting older. Your eye is changing shape. So you're going to have like those flashes and floaters, but it's normal and you're not going blind. And she looked at my age and she's like, oh, you just turned 51. I'm like, this just happened.
Welcome. I feel like I got GERD and you got floaters.
We should rename the podcast to GERD and Floaters, two sisters telling it how it is.
Let's do it.
I agree that to be a fireman, you have to be a certain age. To be a Olympic gymnast, there's certain things that your body just takes you out of with age. But why on earth would it matter if I'm a television writer? Why does it matter if I'm a design director or a production manager? What could it possibly matter what age I am?
I really think a lot of it has to do with Americans' general fear of death, and aging is related to death. We don't really accept that death is real and that the aging process is real. I feel like that's part of it.
That's absolutely true. I think that to talk to someone older than you are is to accept that one day you will be dead and in the ground and we're not ready to do that. And also to accept that you yourself will age. I think that that's a hard part of being Gen X because we really didn't think we were going to.
I was absolutely shocked. I remember being a teen and looking at my decrepit father, who is now my current age. I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, he's just so lame. He listens to Phil Collins and has a weird ponytail and drives an RX-7 because he knows he's going to die soon. I really thought he was done with living. And I experienced that also with my son. He's like, oh, well, you're just like so old.
You rode a dinosaur to school.
You know that he asked me, I think when he was 4, were cars invented when you were a kid?
No, I rode a horse. I was on a horse.
We had a buggy. I mean, we were
we were very modern. We had a buggy and also a Surrey with a fringe on top.
Well, that's true. That was my stage moment.
In Oklahoma.
Not the place, the play.
Really and truly, I mean, I understand that there's like a subconscious desire to deny your own death. And so you reject older people. But why is it lawsuit worthy? Why are people losing jobs because you discover that they're 10, 15 years older than you thought? Who cares?
You have to ask yourself which people are lying. It is a big deal if a woman lies. Women are not allowed to lie. Women are not allowed to age. Women are not allowed to be old.
Because as we all know, just as we get really smart and really know what we want in life, we become totally useless in society.
In addition to getting GERD the night of my 40th birthday, I also turned into a bag of trash.
What's that dirty pile of trash by the side of the road? Oh, ignore her. She's
It's
40.
the birthday girl.
Let's put one flaming candle atop the bag.
I'm curious to know what your solve is for this problem, because according to you, this is a self-help podcast.
I do think that talking to older people as if they are still worth something is a solve for this problem. I do think that we can come out the other side. It starts with self-acceptance and saying, hey, I'm the smartest I've ever been. In many ways, I'm the best version of myself. I like myself and people like me.
I think it's also engaging with mentorship. I think that young people need to have more exposure to older people because older people know stuff. I had a client in the past who was in his 80s and he gave me so much advice. I thought I should be paying you. He just knew a whole bunch of stuff.
Right.
He knew a lot of things. He was in my field. And so he understood a lot of things and had just this wisdom and knowledge that I would never be able to get from someone my age or younger.
I'm just getting to the point in my life where I'm one of the older people in the office and I have 30 years of experience in my field. I am frequently the expert and people look to me for expertise and I like it, but it is also uncomfortable because how can I be the young, cool person if I've been in this industry for 30 years?
That's the thing that I find confounding about you. Why do you think that you're young or cool? You're neither of those things. You're lame and old and you're nostalgic AF and you're stuck in about 1987. There's nothing cool about that.
So this has been a really enjoyable podcast for me. And every time I talk to you is the best part of my day.
I understand that. That makes perfect sense to me. Why do you not accept the aging process? Because I feel like you're fighting it more than most.
Yeah. I think part of it is being Gen X. Our whole culture was snotty youth. And now we're entering retirement age and it's very strange. The boomers didn't think that they would get old. Then they did. Gen X were like, no, we're definitely not going to get old, but we have. But also the fact that I skipped a grade. And so I started school. I was always the youngest person in my class. I was sometimes 2 years younger. My identity has been around being the young person in the crowd. And I think that that's one of the things that makes it hard for me to understand or believe that I'm now the old person in the crowd.
I think maybe the difference between me and you is, at least in our social circle, I started hanging out with our younger sister when she moved in with me, and she was 18 and I was in my late 20s. I got very comfortable with being superbly uncool. And my career, it's not cool. There's nothing edgy or cool about being a therapist. They encourage a lot of loose cardigans.
As we talked about before, you actually can't be a therapist unless you have a floor length open cardigan with no buttons on it.
And that includes men. So watch out, dudes.
Watch out, guys.
Coming in this field, you have to wear a lightweight waterfall cardigan or you cannot work in this field.
Yeah. I identified a woman at the bus stop from what she was wearing. And I told Laura about it and said, I think she's a therapist. And Laura said, for sure, she's a therapist. And then she started walking into a healthcare building where she worked because she was a therapist.
Yep. I don't even think I was cool in my 20s. In my social group as a young person, as a teen, I was the youngest person. I was 13 in a room full of 18-year-olds, which is super creepy. And I shouldn't have done it. But
shouldn't have done it.
It was a very limited time where I was the youngest person. At 27, 28, I realized I'm old and I'm not cool. And I've just kind of been going with that ever since. In closing, Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
One of my theories is every time you say to an adult, oh, I wasn't even born then, there is a karmic notepad that is ticked down on, and it will happen to you. So kids, be careful saying, oh, you had a landline? I wasn't even born then. Oh, you used a modem? I don't know why all of my examples are about phones.
You watched Saturday morning cartoons?
Oh, you had a flip phone? I wasn't even born then. It will come back and bite you in the ass. Being a younger age is not an achievement. You didn't do anything to earn it, and it doesn't make you better than I am. It just means you got here more recently.
I think it's the same as men and women not understanding pretty privilege. These kids don't, and when you say these kids, that means you're officially not cool and you're not young. Kids today, they really don't understand the privilege that they have, and they're not going to understand it until it's gone.
I was having a conversation with you where I was self-conscious about living in a suburb, and you said, why do you care if you live in a suburb? And I said, well, it's not cool. And you reminded me, you are old and you are not cool.
Yeah, if you're ever wondering, Virginia specifically, if you're ever wondering if you're cool and young, just call me and I will let you know.
Let you know. But also, I resist the idea that my life is over. When I talk to people now, they're like, oh yeah, I used to go out. I used to go to shows. Certainly, if you have a child, your life changes and your responsibilities change. But people say like, oh, in my day, in our time, I'm like, it's still my time.
I think that's another reason why you struggle, because you haven't been dressed down by a 10-year-old yet. I have daily reminders of how freaking old I am. Like watching him run at warp speed and thinking, I can't follow him. I guess I'm just going to lose him in the HEB because I'm never going to see him again.
I guess that's true. I don't live with a memento mori every day of my life.
Exactly. I think becoming a parent and just hanging out with little kids a lot really makes you feel old.
But those kids are dumb and they don't know anything.
But they think they're the smartest person in the room, and they'll continue to think that until they turn 35 and no one on OkCupid wants to date them.
Laura, now is the time in the episode where you sometimes share a listener review. Do you have one for us this week?
I do. In fact, it comes all the way from Australia.
Oh, that was offensive.
Your accent earlier was equally bad. So we have another 5-star review. If anyone's interested in being featured on this podcast, all you have to do is get on Apple Podcasts and write us a 5-star review. It's from a listener named Peter Hodgson, Australia. A welcome part of my week. My sister's a therapist is one of my favorite comfort podcasts. I listen every Friday when I'm repairing guitars at work, and I find myself really looking forward to this little ritual every week. The topics are informative and interesting. I'm regularly doing the www rabbit holes to learn more, and the episodes about birth order and attachment styles really help me put some stuff into perspective. Virginia and Laura's rapport is really fun to listen to as well. Best. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. When we posted this week that our stock in Australia had gone up, that we had moved to something like 156 in mental health and fitness podcasts, Peter wrote me and took full credit. And I had to say, I'm sorry. My friend Louis Inglis in Adelaide also listens. So I have 2 guitar playing Australian friends.
You guys have cornered the podcast market and made us stars, and we thank you.
Laura, if people wanted to find you on the internet, where would they do that? Or if they wanted to find, say, the podcast on the internet?
If you don't like Apple and you don't like Spotify, you can just get right on our website, mysistersatherapist.com, and find all the episodes of our podcast. And if you want to reach out to the show, you can send us an email, hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you'd like us to speak at your women's conference or your educational seminar, your corporate retreat, or your workshop, hire us at mysistersatherapist.com. You can also find us on Instagram, My Sister's a Therapist. If you want to find me personally, you can go to lauraryan.org. You can also follow me on TikTok, and I am Laura Ryan on TikTok. Virginia, if people wanted to check out your comedy or find out more about you on the interwebs, how would they do that?
My website is bedinia.com, and it's going to have all my dates. It's got links to this podcast. It's got many links to the several things I've done on the internet. You can also check out my TikTok, which is Bedinia, and my Instagram, which is @Bedinia. It's a nonsense word, Batinia, that I think sounds like my name spoken by a child or someone with a head cold.
And so, in the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn, we can make it, baby.
Me and you.
Bye.
Bye.